Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at a figure who is, well, he's a paradox wrapped in an enigma.
He really is.
Imagine a man who started his life as a highwayman. I mean, literally robbing caravans for a living, a guy you would cross the street to avoid.
Right.
And he ended up being called the most truthful man on earth by the Prophet Muhammad himself.
It is quite the trajectory, isn't it? From, public enemy number one to a moral compass for an entire civilization.
And yet, despite that high praise and despite being in the inner circle of the early believers, he died in forced isolation.
Yeah,
in the middle of a desert.
And his legal opinions, his specific views on wealth, they're largely sidelined by mainstream Islamic law.
Completely. We were talking about Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. And honestly, looking at the stack of sources we have, biographies, Sunni and Shia Hadith, modern analysis, this feels less like a standard biography and more like a detective story about the politics of piety.
That is a perfect way to frame it. Because when we talk about Abu Dharr, we aren't just talking about a companion of the Prophet. We are investigating a battleground.
A battleground for his memory.
Exactly. His memory is a contested space between Sunni and Shia traditions, between the wealthy establishment and the poor, and even between ancient theology and, well, modern political theory.
Right. I saw the term Islamic socialist popped up in the research notes.
It did.
Which sounds wildly anachronistic for the 7th century. Like, did they even have a concept of socialism then?
It is anachronistic, absolutely, but it captures the vibe of why he matters.
Okay.
The mission today is to understand why this one man, this former bandit, became such a threat to the status quo that he essentially had to be removed from society. Why did a man known for truth become too dangerous to keep around?
So let's start at the beginning. The origin story. You just can't make this up. He's from the Banu Ghifar.
The Banu Ghifar. This is crucial context. In pre-Islamic Arabia, tribes had reputations.
And theirs wasn't great.
Let's just say, if you saw the Banu Ghifar coming, you ran. They were known for living on the margins, engaging in highway robbery. They controlled the trade routes, but not in a collecting taxes way.
More in a your money or your life kind of way.
Exactly.
So they were the mob.
Basically. They were outsiders. They weren't part of the posh Meccan elite. They were the people hitting the trade routes that made the Meccans rich.
And yet, Abu Dharr, who is living this rough bandit life, he hears a rumor about a man in Mecca claiming to be a prophet.
Yeah.
Most people would ignore that or rob the messenger. But he doesn't wait. He travels from the desert, sneaks into Mecca, finds Muhammad, converts immediately, and then classic Abu Dharr.
Goes right back to the Kaaba.
And announces his conversion loudly.
Which was incredibly dangerous. The early Muslims were hiding, they were whispering in secret houses. Abu Dharr walks into the center of pagan worship and just shouts, "There is no God but Allah."
And he gets beaten up for it.
Within an inch of his life. He's rescued at the last minute by Abbas, the Prophet's uncle, who points out to the crowd, "Hey, this guy is from the Banu Ghifar. Do you really want to make enemies of the tribe that controls your trade route?"
That's amazing. But this establishes his baseline personality immediately, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
He's impulsive, he's fearless, and he lacks a filter. He doesn't do political correctness.
Exactly. He eventually goes back to his tribe and miraculously converts many of them. The bandits become believers.
Incredible.
But here is the key detail often missed in the standard bio. He didn't stay in Medina the whole time. He wasn't sitting in the front row for every single event during the Medina period.
Right, he wasn't part of the administrative inner circle like Abu Bakr or Umar, the ones actually building the state.
No. He went back to the desert. He was a Bedouin at heart. He preferred the open sky to the city walls.
And that matters.
It's crucial because it explains why, despite being the 4th or 5th convert to Islam, someone with immense seniority, we only have about 281 hadiths narrated by him.
Wow, that's it.
Compare that to someone like Abu Huraira, who converted much later but has thousands.
Because Abu Huraira was in the city, in the mix, capturing every word. Abu Dharr was off the grid.
Precisely. And that distance allowed him to maintain a very specific ascetic worldview. He wasn't softened by the daily realities of governing.
He didn't have to compromise.
Not at all. The Prophet famously said of him, "The earth has not borne, nor has the sky shaded anyone more truthful in speech than Abu Dharr."
That is a massive endorsement. The most truthful. It sounds like a compliment, but hearing his story, it almost sounds like a warning.
How so?
Being truthful doesn't always make you popular. In fact, usually, the guy who insists on the absolute, unvarnished truth is the most annoying person in the room.
Or the most dangerous, depending on who is in charge. And that brings us to the core conflict. The prophet passes away, the first two caliphs pass. The caliphate expands rapidly.
Right.
Suddenly, the Muslim community isn't just a group of pious poor people in Medina sharing dates and milk. They are conquering broadly Persia, Byzantium, wealth is pouring in.
Gold, silver, palaces, silk, all of it.
And Abu Dharr, the man from the desert, is watching this happen.
And he hates it.
He despises it. This is where we get into that socialist angle you mentioned. The conflict really explodes during the time of the third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan.
Okay.
Abu Dharr is stationed in Damascus, which is the frontier. He sees the governor, Muawiyah, living in a way that looks suspiciously like the Byzantine emperors they just defeated.
Muawiyah is building palaces, wearing fine clothes.
Keeping a standing army. And Abu Dharr starts quoting the Quran, specifically verse 9.34.
Which says,
"Those who hoard gold and silver and spend it not in the way of Allah, give them tidings of a painful punishment."
and he took that literally.
Extremely literally. This is the crux of the dispute. The establishment view held by Muawiyah, Uthman, and later supported by most mainstream Sunni scholarship.
The wealth is fine.
Right. As long as you pay your zakat, the obligatory 2.5% charity, the rest of your money is yours. You can build a palace, you can save it for your kids. It's fine. It's halal wealth.
But Abu Dharr said no.
Abu Dharr said absolutely not. His view was radical. You cannot hold any surplus while there are people who are hungry.
Any surplus at all.
Any. If you have extra, it belongs to the poor. He believed that threat of painful punishment applied to Muslims who hoarded wealth, not just the corrupt clergy of other religions.
It's interesting because usually when we think of early Islamic law, we think of it as very structured. But here you have a fundamental economic disagreement. Was he arguing for a total redistribution of wealth?
Essentially, yes. He was arguing against accumulation. Now imagine being the governor of Damascus, Muawiyah.
Okay.
You are trying to run an empire, pay an army, build infrastructure, and negotiate with foreign powers. And you have this famously truthful companion of the prophet standing on the street corner.
Telling everyone that your bank account is a ticket to hell.
Exactly.
It's a PR nightmare.
It was a political nightmare. Muawiyah writes to Caliph Uthman basically saying, "This man is spoiling the people against us. He's inciting class warfare."
So the Islamic socialist label, while modern, comes from this idea. He was anti-capitalist, pro-redistribution.
Correct. Modern scholars like Ali Shariati in the 20th century, who was an ideologue of the Iranian Revolution, loved Abu Dharr for this. They saw him as the original revolutionary.
But you're saying that's reading a modern lens back onto him.
We have to be careful not to project Karl Marx back onto the 7th century. Abu Dharr wasn't trying to seize the means of production. He wasn't talking about labor value. He was trying to be a purist. He saw the community losing its soul to luxury. He wasn't analyzing the economy. He was analyzing the state of the heart.
But the effect was the same. He was challenging the economic basis of the new elite. So what happens? They can't kill him. He's the most truthful man.
Right, you can't execute a national hero.
So what do you do?
No, you can't kill a legend. Uthman recalls him to Medina. He thinks, okay, let's get him out of Damascus, away from the masses.
But that doesn't solve it.
Not at all. Even in Medina, the tension is too high. There is a story where Uthman tries to give him a gift of money, to calm him down or help him out. And Abu Dharr basically throws it back, asking if Uthman is trying to buy his religion.
So this leads to the exile. Now, I know the sources diverge here, and this is where the detective story part kicks in.
They diverge sharply. The Sunni sources tend to say it was a mutual agreement.
That he chose to leave.
That Abu Dharr realized he didn't fit in anymore, that he wanted to leave the corruption of the city to preserve his own piety. He essentially said, I can't live with you people, I'm going to the desert where it's pure.
I'm too punk rock for this town, I'm moving to the desert.
Essentially. But Shia sources, and many critical historians, argue it was a forced exile.
Not his choice.
Not at all. That he was kicked out to al-Rabatha, a desolate spot 170 kilometers away, to silence a critic. And not just sent there, but sent there roughly, forbidden from having people visit him.
And this fulfills a prophecy, right? This is one of those moments in history that feels almost scripted.
Yes. There is a famous narration from the expedition of Tabuk years earlier. Abu Dharr had fallen behind the army because his camel was slow.
Okay.
He ended up walking alone through the blazing sand to catch up, carrying his luggage on his back. The prophet saw him coming in the distance, a lone figure in the mirage, and said, "May Allah have mercy on Abu Dharr. He walks alone, he dies alone, and he will be resurrected alone."
That is haunting. I mean, that gives you chills.
It really does. And the death scene is incredibly poignant. It's 32 AH, around 652 CE. He's in this shack in the desert at Rabada.
Right.
He has almost no possessions. His estate was worth maybe 2 dirhams. He's dying, and it's just his wife and daughter there.
Wow.
And they are weeping, not just because he's dying, but because they don't even have enough cloth to shroud him.
So the man who could have been rich, who could have had a palace next to Muawiyah if he just kept his mouth shut, dies with nothing.
Nothing. And just as he passes, a caravan comes by, led by another famous companion, Abdullah ibn Masud.
Oh, wow.
They find the women weeping over the body. Ibn Masud realizes who it is, and he breaks down, weeping, realizing the prophecy has come true. He buries him.
So he really did die alone, mostly. It's a tragic end for someone so central to the early story, but his death is really just the beginning of the fight over his memory.
Oh, absolutely.
Because once he's gone, everyone tries to claim him or explain him away.
Dead saints are much easier to manage than living revolutionaries. You can put words in their mouths or reinterpret their actions.
Let's break down this battle for memory. We have the Sunni view and the Shia view. It seems like Abu Dharr is a superstar in the Shia tradition.
He is. For Shias, Abu Dharr is one of the 4 pillars.
The 4 pillars.
These are the companions, along with Salman al-Farsi, Miqdad, and Ammar ibn Yasir, who remain loyal to Ali and the Prophet's family when the caliphate was, in their view, usurped by others.
So for them, his exile isn't just a sad story, it's evidence.
Exactly. It's Exhibit A in the case against the early caliphs. They argue that Abu Dharr was persecuted specifically because he spoke the truth against the usurpers of Ali's right and against the corruption of the Umayyads.
And they focus on his narrations about the Prophet's family.
They emphasize them. For the Shia, Abu Dharr is the ultimate resistor, the man who refused to sell out.
Meanwhile, the Sunni tradition has a bit of a dilemma. They accept the hadith that he's the most truthful, they respect him immensely, but he was also essentially a rebel against Uthman, whom Sunnis regard as a rightly guided caliph.
Right.
How do they square that circle? You can't have 2 right sides in a fight, can you?
Well, in Sunni theology, you actually can. It's a concept called ittihad.
Which means?
It means a struggle to find the correct legal interpretation. The standard Sunni solution is to respect Abu Dharr's piety, his zuhd, but to reject his legal rulings on wealth.
So they separate the man from the message.
In a way, they frame the conflict with Uthman not as oppression versus justice, but as a difference of opinion between 2 righteous men.
So Uthman was right to govern the state, and Abu Dharr was right to be personally pious, and it's just a tragedy that they clashed.
Basically, they categorize Abu Dharr's views on wealth as a personal extreme practice. Something admirable for him. If you want to be a saint, go ahead and give everything away, but not binding law for the rest of us.
That's a very convenient way to handle a radical, oh, he's just being spiritual, don't worry about your bank account.
It is convenient. But to be fair to the Sunni tradition, you cannot run an empire on Abu Dharr's economics. If everyone gave away all surplus wealth, the state would collapse. Uthman was trying to manage a real economy. He needed capital.
But Uthman's position was pragmatic.
It was pragmatic. Abu Dharr's was idealistic.
That brings us to the silent gap. We mentioned earlier that he only has 281 hadiths.
Yeah.
For a guy who was that close to the Prophet and lived that long well into the expansion era, isn't that suspiciously low?
It's the big question. 281 is a very low number. Part of it is the isolation we talked about. He didn't have hundreds of students in the desert.
Right.
But critical scholars and Shia sources argue there was active suppression.
Suppression by whom?
The Umayyad dynasty. Remember, Muawiyah, the guy Abu Dharr was yelling at in Damascus, eventually becomes the caliph and starts a dynasty that lasts almost a century.
And during that time,
do you think it was safe to narrate stories about how the founder of the dynasty was hoarding wealth and ignoring the Quran?
right, if you're quoting Abu Dharr saying, rich people are going to hell in a mosque funded by the Umayyads, you're probably not going to get a lot of airtime.
Exactly. You might get a visit from the guards. There was a systematic attempt to promote hadiths that favored obedience to rulers and suppressed those that encouraged rebellion or criticized wealth.
It was like likely seeing a sanitized version of him.
I think so. Even Sunni sources record instances where Abu Dharr defied bans on narrating certain things. So there is definitely a filter of power politics applied to what survived.
It's fascinating how politics shapes what we think of as religious history. We think of these books as static, but they survived a gauntlet of censorship. But I want to pivot to the hadiths that did survive, because some of them, well, they're tricky.
Mm-hmm.
They show the human side of this transmission. It's not just a robotic recording of data.
Yes, looking at the content of his hadiths tells us a lot about how memory works. Take the black dog controversy. This is a classic example of companion disagreement, and it involves Aisha, the Prophet's wife.
Okay, let's unpack this. Abu Dharr narrates a hadith saying that a Muslim's prayer is annulled or invalid if a woman, a donkey, or a black dog passes in front of them.
Right. Now, this is a heavy statement. It groups women with animals in the context of prayer interruption. It sounds very harsh.
I can imagine.
But what's fascinating is not just the statement, but the reaction to it. Aisha heard this narration and she was furious.
I bet. I can't imagine she took that lying down.
She reportedly said, "You have likened us to donkeys and dogs." And then she countered it with her own memory. She said she used to lie in front of the Prophet while he prayed, between him and the Qibla, and he didn't stop. She used her proximity to the Prophet, her intimate knowledge of his private life, to override Abu Dharr's narration.
So we have two companions, both truthful with completely contradictory memories. What does the listener make of that? Does it mean one of them is lying?
No, and that's the beauty of it. It forces us to understand that companions were human. They corrected each other.
Right.
Abu Dharr might have heard a specific warning in a specific context, maybe about distraction, but Aisha provides the broader context. It highlights that memory is fallible and context is key.
It's not monolithic.
Not at all. It destroys the idea of a monolithic transmission of information where everyone agreed on everything. The early community was a vibrant, debating society.
And then there's the science angle, the hadith about the sun. This one always comes up in modern debates about religion and science.
Ah, yes. The sun prostrating. Abu Dharr narrates that the Prophet asked him where the sun goes at sunset. And the answer given is that it goes beneath the throne of Allah and prostrates, waiting for permission to rise again.
Which, if you look at modern astronomy,
is problematic, to say the least. We know the Earth rotates. The sun doesn't go anywhere. It certainly doesn't park itself under a throne and ask for permission every morning.
So how do scholars deal with that? Does it discredit Abu Dharr? Does it mean he made it up?
Not necessarily. Traditional scholars often take a phenomenological view, meaning the Prophet was speaking in the language of what the eye sees. To a 7th century desert dweller, the sun does go away. It disappears. The prostration is a metaphor for the submission of all creation to natural laws.
So it wasn't an astronomy lesson.
It was a theology lesson about how everything in the universe obeys God.
But it's interesting how these problematic hadiths land on Abu Dharr.
Yeah.
It almost feels like because he was this mystical, ascetic figure, he became a magnet for these kinds of metaphysical narrations.
That is a very distinct possibility. In fact, there is a genre of literature called the Testament to Abu Dharr. Long lists of advice and wisdom.
And you think those are later additions?
Critical scholars think a lot of this is later fabrication or wisdom literature attributed to him because he was the perfect figurehead for it.
Like how people attribute random inspirational quotes to Einstein or Mark Twain today. If you want it to sound smart, put a famous name on it.
Exactly. If you wanted to criticize the rich in the 8th century but didn't want to get your head chopped off, the safest way to do it was to say, Abu Dharr said. He became the patron saint of the angry ascetic.
He became a vessel for the community's conscience.
That's a great way to put it.
So when we step back and look at the whole picture, the bandit, the truth teller, the exile, the socialist symbol, what are we left with? Why does he still matter today, aside from being a historical curiosity?
We are left with the conscience of the early community. Abu Dharr represents that uncomfortable moment when a revolutionary faith starts becoming a settled empire. He is the reminder of the ascetic roots of Islam.
He's the guy at the party who reminds everyone that they're having too much fun.
Yes, but a necessary guy. Without him, the transition to empire might have felt seamless, unquestioned. He forced the community to confront the tension between power and piety.
He asked the hard questions.
He asked the hardest question. Are we doing this for God or for the gold? That question never goes away. Every movement, every religion, every ideology eventually faces its Abu Dharr moment, where it has to decide if it's sticking to its roots or selling out for stability.
It makes you wonder. And here's a thought for you to take away. If Abu Dharr walked into a modern city today, or even a modern religious institution, whether a mosque, a church, or a synagogue, and started preaching his view on wealth.
Strictly no surplus.
Strictly no surplus, everything to the poor, living on a few dates and water. Would he be embraced as a saint?
Or would he be exiled again as a radical? I think we know the answer might be uncomfortable. We love the idea of absolute truth, but we rarely like the reality of it in our living rooms.
He walks alone indeed. That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.